Hey everyone, welcome back to another Shadows Over Innistrad draft, and going to go ahead and dive right in. Looking at our picks here, can certainly start things off with a nice rare, Altered Ego, the only downside to it being a multicolor card, but certainly worth the early committal to two colors, granted how strong it is. As far as the uncommons go, we've got Ghoulsteed, Pious Evangel, and Spectral Shepherd, all very nice in their respective decks, and to round out the commons, we've got a Fiery Temper, which is quite strong. I'm going to go ahead and start things off with the Altered Ego, however. I've been meaning to play a blue-green deck, and this is certainly a great way to start that off. Blue-green, looking for clue generators and delirium and whatnot. We've got already a bunch of nice picks here. I think, optimistically, I wouldn't mind wheeling this Woodland Stream. If it does wheel, that's certainly a good sign that blue and green together are open, but I don't know how likely that is. As far as cards that we'll actually be playing that are not lands, we've got Drownyard Explorers, the Vessel of Nascency, and the Solitary Hunter, all very solid. I'm not sure which one I want exactly. So Vessel is good in that it fills the graveyard with a multitude of card types, and it can actually find an Altered Ego, as this is a creature. There's also Drownyard Explorer and Solitary Hunter, which are both solid 4-drops. I think I would lean towards the Drownyard Explorer. With a card like Alter Ego, I'm looking for cards that enter the battlefield with an effect, such as Drownyard Explorer or Inspiring Captain, something like a Voldaren Duelist even. There's actually quite a few of them here. Also looking to generate clues. There's a lot of synergy with that. I'm going to go ahead and start off with the Vessel, however. I really like this card, and we can kind of meld our way into a Delirium deck with it, or see if there's just good tempo cards and whatnot to find to go along with our Altered Ego here. So, continuing on, we got a somewhat playable counterspell. I've actually never seen this cast for its madness cost, but still 3 mana to counterspell unconditionally is pretty strong. There is a Thraben Gargoyle, who's a nice colorless 1-drop that plays defense, and then you can turn it into an evasive flyer later on. There's a Just the Wind, which I always like to have 1 or 2 of in any blue deck, really. Just having an instant speed answer if they've got something nasty like a Rabid Bite, or if you have to save your own creature from a Fiery Temper, for instance, then you can bounce it back to hand and just replay it. Goes kind of nicely with the Altered Ego, I suppose. And then as far as other colors, I'd say Murderous Compulsion is likely the best. I'm just going to go ahead and take the Just the Wind here. Try and solidify our hold on the 2 colors here. That might not last, however, as here's a Geist Blast, which I think is probably the strongest card. If not that, then there's Intrepid Provisioner and Watcher in the Web for green. And a couple of white cards, the Spirits, Emissary of the Sleepless, and the Moorland Drifter. Decent 2-drop. I'm not really sure which direction to go here. We're not absolutely committed to anything, but Geist Blast is certainly good in a red-blue deck that has lots of cards going to the graveyard, lots of Fiery Tempers and whatnot that you can potentially double cast. Certainly worth considering. Could definitely see taking the Geist Blast and still just kind of splashing green off of a land or 2 to play a card like Altered Ego. I think I might do that. I'm going to go ahead and take the Geist Blast. We're not really missing out on much here. And it's a nice card by itself. And we'll kind of see where things fall. Whether green or red is a better color to go into. I definitely haven't really seen a strong signal either way. So it's hopefully going to become more apparent what colors we should be in by the end of the pack. So here, a Niblis of Dusk, which I'm kind of leaning towards. It's just a good evasive threat. Can grow with lots of instants and sorceries, which we're looking to play with a card like Geist Blast or Just the Wind. Staying out of blue, there is a Loam Dryad, which would help, I suppose, splash a 3rd color. We could play blue-green as we had intended, and then splash the Geist Blast. There's Ulrich's Kindred. If we're going red-green, obviously we're going to be looking for werewolves then, however. Wolves and werewolves. I think I might just take the Niblis. I think it's the safest pick here. And neither of the red cards or the 2 green cards that I would lean towards I think is any stronger. So we're just going to kind of play it safe, and this is a good sign. The Sleep Paralysis, certainly a good card in blue. I think that's a strong enough signal that it is somewhat open. This pack is not by any measure a weak pack, however. There's still some playables in here with Puncturing Light, Moorland Drifter, and Gatstaff Arsonists, even Aim High. But yeah, I'll happily scoop up a Sleep Paralysis here and hope the blue cards keep flowing. And that's the kind of card I'm looking at, actually, a Stitched Mangler. a good tempo-based play that has an enter the battlefield effect to work alongside Altered Ego. It's a good blue card in general, so that's a great sign that we can follow up our Sleep Paralysis with that. And there's really not much else in this pack except for the Gibbering Fiend and I suppose the Militant Inquisitor. If you have the right number of equipments, this card's very strong. But yeah, I don't think anything compares to the Stitched Mangler for what we're trying to do, so I'll happily take that. Here is where things get a little more interesting. So Drunau Corpse Trawler, I think, is a safe bet that blue-black is open. We don't really have any zombies except for the Mangler and the Trawler itself to work off of its synergy, but I'm kind of thinking that if we take it now, we might be able to scoop up some more going forward. And I don't think we're really missing out on anything by kind of taking a risky pick here with the Corpse Trawler. It's not like we're going to miss the Seagraph Scob or the Stoic Builder or anything like that. Although if I, like last draft, have a number of zombie synergies, I might be missing out on that Seagraph Scob after all. So I think this is our first pack. And I see that the Spectral Shepherd came back, which is probably the common we were least interested in. Unfortunately, it looks like the stream, or the orchard, I think, the blue-green dual land was taken. So I'm not sure what to make of that. There must be somebody else kind of going for that. But I could definitely take the Spectral Shepherd. Like I said, I think blue is certainly a color we're in, but I wouldn't really rule out white or green or anything at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Shepherd. Doesn't really work with anything else we have except the Niblis, but... oh, never mind, I take that back. So there's the Woodland Stream. So that's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and take that, and note that we are not by any means locked into any color. With the Woodland Stream, I might be able to play blue and white, or blue and red, and splash green off of the stream to play a card like Altered Ego. Maybe not Vessel of Nascency with only 1 or 2 white sources, but we'll see when we get there. So Essence Flux works well with the Spirits. Broken Concentration is a counterspell. I'm just going to take the Silent Observer. Spirit works alongside the Shepherd, and it's just a great blocker in general. So it's unfortunately not the 4-drop blocker that I was looking for, like a Drownyard Explorer, but it'll certainly make the cut, I think. I'm just going to take a Lamplighter, I guess, to kind of reinforce the idea that blue is not open. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and pass the Pick the Brain to let the person on our left know that they should be in black, if they weren't already, based on that, I think, mid-pack, that 3rd or 4th pick, Murderous Compulsion. Pretty strong card. Not looking to play the Lamplighter or the Snapper. Okay, well, we open an Avacyn. I don't think that there's any rationalization to take that. And what is going on here? This is one of the craziest packs I've ever seen. We have a Mythic Rare, a regular rare, both in white. We've got 4 uncommons, one of which is a flip card. I think that is a bug, that we have 2 flip cards here. I'm not exactly certain if that can happen in a paper pack, but here we are, looking at 2 flip cards, 1 uncommon, 1 mythic rare. There's an Angelic Purge and a Deadweight, so also True Faith Sensor, I suppose. Quite a pack here, but I don't think anything really compares to Archangel Avacyn. So, might be happy that we took that Spectral Shepherd there. I would happily play a blue-white deck splashing green off the stream for a card like Altered Ego. So, enough rambling. I think the pick is pretty simple here. Audric would be great, as would the Gossip Monger and the Purge, if we are going to be in white. All fantastic cards for this. But yeah, nothing compares to Avacyn herself. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. Wow, okay, so I think we can safely eliminate Geist Blast here. Not going to be playing red, most likely. A lot of cards here that I'm interested in. Another Spectral Shepherd. That'd be great. There's actually a small chance that this card wheels. There's 2 playable blue-white cards in here. The Shepherd and the Invocation. So if there's another blue-white player, they could easily scoop up the rare and leave us the Spectral Shepherd. This is a strong pack just in general. There's a Manic Scribe, a Reckless Scholar, Aim High, Village Messenger. Those last 2 cards aren't noteworthy or anything. They're playable, I suppose, but you're not excited to pick up either of them, really, unless you're in a crazy werewolf deck. There's a Voldaren Duelist and a Jace's Scrutiny, so lots of cards here that hopefully someone will take over our Spectral Shepherd, but I think I have to take the Reckless Scholar here. Doesn't really work with what we have. We only have the 1 Madness card. Don't really need Delirium or anything, but just drawing cards, filtering through your deck is pretty solid. I would not mind getting the Manic Scribe back either, just as a nice turn 2 blocker that, if we do have Delirium somehow, can mill out the opponent. But yeah, I think I gotta go with the Scholar here. I think it's better than what we had to choose from otherwise. Here's a Thraben Inspector, which I'll happily take. Also a Tenacity. I think this card is somewhat of a nemesis to me. I've never had any luck playing it myself, but I've lost to it quite a number of times. Interesting also, the 2 black cards here, Kindly Stranger and From Under the Floorboards, arguably the 2 best cards in the pack. It's very strange that the 3 people or so on our left are not in black. I'm curious now what they're playing. Likely blue, as there are no blue cards here. I'm not sure how that happened, though, as we took just about every single blue card in every single pack we could, based on the contents of our deck. Our first pack was very heavily leaning towards blue. But, yeah, I'm not going to be going into Under the Floorboards or Kindly Stranger territory, unfortunately, as much as I love those cards. I'm going to happily scoop up our first 1 or 2 drop in Thraben Inspector, and not really counting to get anything back, maybe a Strength of Arms or an Unruly Mob, but yeah, this pack's going to be mostly picked clean, I think, by the time it gets back to us. Thraben Inspector is great, though. Wow, okay, so we got Rise from the Tides, if we were going with the zombies. Might just go ahead and cut this Drew Now Corpse Trawler for now. Also the Vessel. I don't think I'm going to be playing that. So, good cards in Murder's Compulsion and Morkret Necropod. Once again, kind of surprised that black has flowed this much from the left. Tormenting Voice, great card in red, but I'm not really pleased with this card, but I'm going to happily take it. Puncturing Light, there's just not much else here except, I guess, another Silent Observer. But we need early things to hold off aggro. It works well with the instant speed sort of deck we're building, between like Reckless Scholar, Spectral Shepherd being able to recall spirits to hand, Archangel Avacyn, of course. And if we get some clues or whatnot, then I'll definitely always be interested in holding up 2 or more mana on my opponent's turn. So I could represent a Puncturing Light or just sacrificing a clue or anything really. So here, don't really see anything I'm too interested in. There's a Catalog, a Strength of Arms, and a Wicker Witch, all of which would be semi-playable in our deck. But yeah, definitely the best cards left over are Dance with Devils, I guess Convicted Killer, if you really need that werewolf for like a Moonlight Hunt or other synergies you've got with them. Just a fairly weak pack in general. I might take the Strength of Arms, I think, even though I don't have any equipment just yet. That could easily change if I get that True Faith sensor back from my first pack. Then I could certainly see us making use of this. I'm going to go ahead and take the Strength of Arms, I think. It's better than Catalog for us, although, like I said before, I do like to hold up mana on our opponent's turn. Catalog's a good reason to do that, but I like the combat trick here or there. Another Niblis, and more black cards, and Farbog Revenant, and Rancid Rats. But yeah, I'll happily take another Evasive Spirit and early drop that can deal some damage in the mid to late game. Yeah, I'm not really able to read this draft too well from this direction at least. I think blue is definitely open from the right based on how late we got that Stitched Mangler and Sleep Paralysis. But yeah, I can't really tell what the people on our left are drafting here. I guess I can tell that I thought it was blue until this pack came around. This might have just been a very strong pack, but there's still a Drownyard Explorer and a Stormrider Spirit. I'm really not sure which one to take here. I do like clue strategies. I like humans with a card like True Faith Sensor. Drownyard Explorer is certainly what I'm looking for, but also with all my spirit synergies, I guess I only really have the one in Spectral Shepherd, but it's a pretty good one. Plus wanting to play on the opponent's turn, hold up 5 mana, flash in a Storm Rider, and then the next time they'll think it's a Storm Rider or something, then Archangel Avacyn comes down. That is certainly tempting to take, but I think I got to go with the early play. I really like our Avacyn and Altered Ego to kind of close out a game already. I just want to survive that long, so I think a Drownyard Explorer is a great way to do that. Interestingly, Crow Dark Tidings, very good card still in here. There's a Warped Landscape that we could conceivably play if we really want to splash Altered Ego with some certainty. There's a Magnifying Glass for generating clues, and a Nagging Thoughts. None of these are particularly great for us. Might just take the Nagging Thoughts, I suppose. I don't really want to play Warped Landscape. I think maybe another Woodland Stream, if I am lucky enough to get one, will be plenty of fixing if I just play the 1 green card. So just go ahead and take Nagging Thoughts here. There's a Scob, a Vessel, some playable green cards, the Dire Swine and Howlpack Resurgence. I don't expect to play Essence Flux, but I suppose it's the most in line with what we're doing here. Could also definitely take the Seagraff Scob, but there's plenty of other 2-drops, and especially white, that I would happily take over that, or play over that. No guarantee that we actually get them, however. But yeah, why don't we have some fun? I'll go ahead and take Essence Flux, and maybe we can find a way to play it. There we go. Spectral Shepherd came back, so somebody took the Invocation of Saint Traft, but left us the Spectral Shepherd, which I'm happy with. I would definitely like a Jace's Scrutiny, but I think I'm more likely to get one of those in pack 3 towards the end than I am a Spectral Shepherd. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. And wow, alright, there's Tenacity and yet another Strength of Arms. Is this good enough for Tenacity? It's very strong with Niblis. With Prowess, you can have a 2-1 Niblis turn suddenly into a 4-power lifelinker. Not that great with like Silent Observer or Reckless Scholar or anything. Although I suppose you could loot twice with the Reckless Scholar if you really wanted to. I think Tenacity's better here than another Strength of Arms, so I'll go ahead and take that. I don't expect to play Ghostly Wings. There's Catalog. That's a good sign. Farbog Revenant last pick. I guess technically a Trail of Evidence last pick, but I don't think we're really going to play that. Casting instants and sorceries to investigate. I don't think we have nearly enough for that. Always Watching. Wow. And Bound by Moonsilver, and a Sleep Paralysis, and another Puncturing Light. All fantastic cards. I don't think I can shy away from this Always Watching, however. I really, really want that Bound by Moonsilver as we're kind of light on removal. But Always Watching just kind of negates your need for removal. All of your creatures are blockers as well because of the Vigilance. And it's just ridiculously strong, adding +1/+1 to like a Thraben Inspector even, turning it into a 2/3. Suddenly it's on par with a 3-drop, and it's already gotten you value by replacing itself through investigating. All these other cards, just having +1/+1 in Vigilance, I think makes it a stronger pick than Bound by Moonsilver. I would not fault anyone for taking this, however. In a deck like ours, you certainly want enough cheap and effective removal, which Bound by Moonsilver is. But with any luck, we'll get the Sleep Paralysis back, although it is the only blue card in the pack, so that's kind of a slim chance. But I'm going to go ahead and take Always Watching here. Now we're going to prioritize our early drops, like Topplegeist, for instance, which I see now. Cards that I can play early on to act defensively, and with Always Watching as like a, not a curve topper, but turn 1 Thraben Inspector, turn 2 2-drop, turn 3 Always Watching. That's pretty strong. You're going to be hitting every turn, they're going to be on the back foot, pressed for answers to deal with it. But yeah, Topplegeist is certainly the pick here. It's a spirit, works really nicely with Spectral Shepherd. You can just recall it and replay it to tap down your opponent's dudes every turn, sometimes twice in one turn, if need be. But yeah, this and Apothecary Geist are certainly what I'm looking for. Things to play on early on and gain some life, and that have some later term applications with my Spectral Shepherds. I would not at all shy away from taking just the Wind or Press for Answers if they come back around, even the Scarecrow. That'd kind of help guarantee that we find our green mana. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and happily take the Topplegeist here. Pour Over the Pages I like, Vessel of Ephemera. Not a whole lot else, really. I think I'm just going to take Pour Over the Pages. I like this card a lot. I think I mentioned it in my last video. I think in Limited, it often comes down to, well, like any game of Magic, it comes down to whoever drew more cards and played more spells. And Pour Over the Pages is a good way to do both, if you can get to casting it, that is. You get to draw a bunch of cards, refill your hand, and discard, you know, ideally a Madness card. We only really have the 2, and one of which is a Nagging Thought. It's a little suspect to play. But being able to refill your hand with some gas, discard a useless card or a Madness 1, and then untapping lands even so that you can cast those cards that very turn is just really strong, what I'm looking to do here. So I think it's better than the Vessel, although I would certainly like to pick one of those up. Now that we have Topplegeist, I like easy ways to put enchantments into the graveyard for Delirium purposes, but I don't really have any sorceries either except the Nagging Thought, so I might as well take the Pour Over the Pages for that reason too. There we go. Alright, that was probably one of the single best picks here. Why is there still a Lightning Axe in here, by the way? So red seems wide open from the right. I think my first pack I passed like a Fiery Temper, so there's somebody on the left of us that's going to be really happy to take up a Lightning Axe this late. But yeah, I'm happily going to take Erdwall Illuminator. He's not that great for the investigating portion. We only have, what, Drownyard Explorer, and not a whole lot else that does any investigating, but a 1/3 for 2 that flies, he can block a ton, and he's really strong with a card like Always Watching. You know, 4 toughness is really hard to kill that early, and he can just keep pecking away while blocking, and if I happen to draw Drownyard Explorers, then all the better. So I can go ahead and take him happily. Alright, another Spirit, kind of a high drop, but we could always use another of those. There's still an Olivia's Bloodsworn, excuse me, and a Stencia Masquerade if you were looking to play red-black vampires. Both nice pickups there. And a Macabre Waltz as well, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and happily take this Emissary. We got a nice little Spirits deck going on here. There's a Stitch Mangler. That's a good sign. Yeah, I think he's better than the Militant Inquisitor by far. And I'm not really interested in another Ghostly Wings or anything like that, so I'll happily take the Mangler. There's a Diregraph Colossus. Wow. I'm going to probably take the Niblis here, but man, what kind of a deck could we have had if we had not opened Avacyn, which kind of forced us into white? Opening Archangel Avacyn and Always Watching, which are some of the strongest white rares in the entire set, like if not the absolute strongest card in the entire set with Avacyn. Also with her value, kind of recouping the cost of a draft, is certainly worth noting. But if we had not gone white, all these black cards coming to us, what kind of a blue-black zombie deck could we have had with Diregraph Colossus and that Drew Now Corpse Trawler? Excuse me, got something in my throat. I'm going to go ahead and take Niblis here. And a Sleep Paralysis. I think this is the first pack, can't quite tell. We're coming up there. But yeah, Sleep Paralysis, happily take that up. It's our second removal spell, kind of, for bigger things. Puncturing Light to take out the small ones. And I guess like Stitch Manglers to keep them tapped down long enough to hopefully beat them with evasive flyers and spirits and whatnot. So Sleep Paralysis for sure. Sure, I think this is actually our first pack. I'll go ahead and take another Sleep Paralysis quite happily. There we go. Press for Answers and Just the Wind both came back. So which one's better for us? We're certainly going to have to make a number of cuts here, but not sure which ones. As far as Madness goes, the only thing we have is Catalog, excuse me, also a Reckless Scholar. I think those are the only two. Whereas Press for Answers is basically a Stitched Mangler Light without the body. Taps them down, they don't untap. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Just the Wind. I like keeping with the instant speed theme here. And, don't think I'm going to need Strength of Arms. I don't know if I'll even play the one that I have. I think I'm just going to take Seagraph Scob if I have to reluctantly play him as a 2-drop. Go ahead and take this zombie to round things out, if I can click correctly. Foily Shambleback and a Vessel of Paramnesia to round things out. Okay, so we're going to have to cut like 5 cards or so. I think I can definitely start by cutting probably this Nagging Thoughts. Although we don't really have anything else to do in the early turns unless we have Thraben Inspector or Topplegeist or Erdwall Illuminator. I wish this had Investigate instead of Madness on it or something like that. I don't know. Certainly have more of a home in our deck here. So I'm interested in playing Altered Ego. It's easy enough to splash with the Woodland Stream and maybe 1 Forest. But definitely need to make some concessions here. So I like all of our 5 drops and 4 drops, except possibly the Tenacity. We have certainly a number of 3s. Might cut. So things I'm interested in maybe cutting are Catalog, Tenacity, Nagging Thoughts, just to get us started, and certainly Strength of Arms. I think I can cut that safely. So for our early drops, we've got Topplegeist, which is not ideal, a Thraben Inspector, and an Erdwall Illuminator. And then some Just the Winds and Puncturing Lights to play a little defensively early on if we must. Turn 3 is when things start to kind of come down. We've got 5 Spirits with the Niblis and the Spectral Shepherds. We've got Always Watching and some Manglers and whatnot. And then turn 4, we just kind of continue to plink away with whatever flyers we've played and Sleep Paralysis to tap down threats. I might cut this Silent Observer. He is a Spirit, which is nice, and he's pretty good with an Always Watching. He's just like a consistent 2 damage turn that is extremely difficult to remove with a whopping 6 toughness. And Always Watching, one of the strengths is that your attackers get to double up as defenders as well. But I think I'm going to be more aggressive here. I'm more of a tempo-based deck with all these Just the Winds, Manglers, and Sleep Paralyses. I want to just play a threat by turn 3, preferably on turn 3, and then spend much of the rest of the game just kind of tapping down and bouncing enemies and deploying more cheap and effective threats while doing so. So if I just cut these right there, we're already at 23. And are these 23 spells better than Tenacity, Catalog, or Nagging Thoughts? I believe they are. So let's look at what we've got so far. Oops. Group them separately. So definitely have a good mix of tempo and aggression while also having some defensive cards like Drowning Explorer and Erdwall Illuminator, as well as a Stitch Mangler. Once he does his job of tapping you down, he's got a nice 2/3 body, you can block a bit. And then we've got some absolute bombs in Archangel Avacyn and Altered Ego. I like Pour Over the Pages here. It's not amazing or anything, but we do have the 2 Just the Winds that I'll happily discard and cast, as well as filling our hand if need be later in the game. That's the only card I can kind of see cutting here. I think I'm happily going to play all the Sleep Paralyses and bounce spells and whatnot. So it's really just Pour Over the Pages versus a card like Tenacity. It doesn't work that well when you already have Vigilance, but I mean, I'm not expecting to have Always Watching every game. So this is another way to kind of keep your opponent guessing when it is safe to attack you, while also, in theory, leading to a gigantic swing in life. You know, you have like 2 Nibluses of the Dusk and Emissary out with a Spirit. You just attack. It looks like, oh, it's only going to be like 6 or 7 damage. And then suddenly with Tenacity, you know, you're hitting for like 10 or more and gaining a bunch of life in the process, which can be a gigantic swing. So, definitely don't think we need to go super defensive with like Seagraff Scob or anything like that. I don't think we need any more finishers like a Snapper. Silberland Snapper. Try and pronounce these correctly. Yeah, I think I like the deck the way it is. The only cards I'm a little iffy about are Tenacity and Silent Observer, but I think we'll get by just fine without them. For splashing this Altered Ego, I think just 1 Forest will suffice. So let's see what they recommend for our blue-white splashes. We've got Woodland Stream, which is a blue source of mana. So is 6 white enough to do what we want to do? I don't think it is, actually. With a card like Always Watching, and I mean, obviously I want to cast Avacyn. Both of them being double white is a little questionable with only 6 sources. So I'm probably going to cut an island here for 1. That keeps me at 9 blue sources, 2 green sources, one of which is untapped if you really need to clone something this turn with Altered Ego. And then 7 white. Is that enough to reliably have a Plains on turn 1 when we have a hand with like Thraben Inspector and Puncturing Light that we have to cast on time? I think we don't want to go any lower on blue, since that is easily our main color here. I think I'm going to keep it as it is, not make any more changes, unless I wanted to go up to down to 22 spells and 18 lands, but I don't think we need to do something that radical. Card like Catalog to help smooth out your draws, another consideration. I like the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and run this deck out and hope for the best. So stay tuned, everyone, for match 1 of our 3rd Shadows Over Innistrad draft.